Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. Sorry, it took a little bit of time. Had to get something going on with a little bit of internet, but we are here, and I'm joined by my friend, my compatriot, Jerry V. Hall, all the way from Costa Rica. Jerry, thanks for stopping by.
Glad to be here, Rob. Good to see you again, my friend.
Yeah. This is crazy times, right? Crazy because me, you, and everybody in the comment section right now, everybody, which I want to say hello to everybody. Everybody has done their job in the bear market. We bought, we got made fun of, we threw sand in the ocean, and this is our reward. How's it feel?
It feels great. It feels good. I'll tell you, having lived through a tremendous wealth creation phase from 2018 to 2021, mishandling that wealth, watching that wealth evaporate, but staying in the space and staying convicted to a couple of very simple tenets, and that is turn fiat into assets. Eventually, the world will come around. And it seemed like at times, Rob, that it never would. But guess what? Here we are. Look at the political landscape. Look at the monetary policy landscape. Things are coming back to us, and it feels really great to be in this space again at this point in time. So congratulations, everybody who weathered the storm.
Yeah. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And everybody's friends and family who are going to see it. And Matt says, Thanksgiving is going to be different this year. It's actually true. But all your friends and family that just couldn't do it, now you get to be the shining light and go, hey, this is what's going on. But unfortunately, nothing goes up in a straight line, right, Jerry?
Absolutely, as evidenced by waking up this morning and looking at the charts. I'll tell everybody what I told you off camera. I got up and I looked at price action this morning, and I thought to myself, Rob just made his first profit-taking season of this upward trajectory.
Can you imagine like someone who could actually move the market like that? I think Michael Saylor probably could, and we're going to talk about why I think 100K is on the table. Maybe Monday. I'm thinking Monday. I'll tell you why. But Bitcoin today and everything's across the board. And people are going to say this term, healthy pullback. You're going to hear this about 30,000 times today. But it's true. I mean, we can't just keep going up forever. I mean, for Pete's sakes, 42% in 30 days for Bitcoin. And now it's over 1.8. Jeez, 1.9. It's almost 2 trillion market cap. I remember when 1.9 was the total market cap for the entire crypto market. And now that's just like an off day. Ugh, insane. Solana was up 43%. I mean, but everything's down except for a couple. There's a couple of ones that are up today. Near up a whopping 2.3%. 6% for artificial super intelligence. Holy Jerry, do you know what's going on with Celestia? I don't own it, so I don't really follow it.
You know, so there's a small group of these layer ones that came in after my initial, we'll call it foundation of my portfolio being built. And so Celestia, I mean, I might have a couple, but I don't follow it like intently. So I'm not really hip to what's going on. I'll be honest. Sorry.
It's difficult. I mean, what the hell? EOS is still in the top 100. Huh. That's going to make me and Beardy happy. Anyhow, that's what's happening right now. And I think the reason, I think we all know the reason why. The reason why this actually happened is because of Cramer. And this was Jim Cramer. I think this was less than 24 hours ago. I want you to take a listen to this and just know that there's only one person in this entire universe that can, and just like John Deaton says, the only man on the planet that could stop momentum in its tracks. Take a listen to this, like 45 seconds or so. Let me see.
Greg in Florida. Greg. Booyah, Jim. How we doing? I'm doing well. How about you? I can't hear anything. I'm doing very well. All right. So here's the deal. I've owned this stock for a long time, since 2023. I'm up over 1,000% right now. I don't plan on selling it. In fact, after today's correction, I plan on buying more. But I love what the CEO does. He's the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Saylor. The stock is Microstrategy. What do you? we call MSTR. We used to call that Mr. MSTR. I've got to tell you, it's a Bitcoin play. I prefer to actually own Bitcoin. I know that Citron put some sort of short on it. All I can tell you is own Bitcoin. That's a winner. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the conclusion of the lightning round.
Well, luckily I know what he said. So yeah, that was unfortunately that's Cramer, and of course he's the one that that is the culprit. That's the only reason why we're down. Obviously not. That's not the case. But you know, if we take a look at unfortunately the levereds, the longs and the shorts, you know, in the last 24 hours, it's been quite a bloodbath for the longs. They lost 286 million, short 76, and then just yesterday as well, you're looking at 257, 220, almost 246, like $850 million, almost $1 billion in losses. So if you, Jerry, are you a big short long guy? You do any leverage plays?
You know, I do occasionally dabble with covered calls on Bitcoin contracts on Ledger X, but in the actual market, like with my Fidelity account or Schwab, I pretty much stay away.
Yeah, well, nothing wrong with like I said, like even on my rule, they say no leverage, but every rule is made to be broken just a little bit, or not broken, just bent. If you're gonna do like a little bit of a levered play, sure. You're gonna be a little gambling, whatever. You know, just don't go crazy. That's the big thing. And of course, always, as always, I'm not your dad, so you do whatever you want to do over there. Everybody in the comment section. But I think there's some bigger plays afoot. First of all, Tether just minted $2 billion. Yeah, $2 billion worth minted at the Tether Treasury. And this is actually from Fred Kreuger. Did a pretty long spaces. I'll try to link that in the description. I didn't do it right now, but I'll get to it. But the summary was this. At about 2 p.m. PST today, $2 billion of Tether were minted. We just talked about it's extremely likely that MicroStrategy was a source of these $2 billion in Tether. It uses USDT to buy Bitcoin on exchanges. I didn't know this, including Binance. And not only just Binance, but not even OTC. There are some bots that just kind of play in the background, just like what they did with Coinbase. But and we'll get to that in a second. At this time, Bitcoin was 97.3. It has since climbed to 98.3 as MicroStrategy buying bots have started operation. $2 billion just to start. MicroStrategy raised $3 billion from the convertible and probably issued anywhere from $2 to $9 billion using its ATM facility. It has potential to go up to $12 billion to put to work. This massive war chest is expected to be deployed before Wednesday, possibly Monday, with the resulting 8K, indicating MicroStrategy now has up to 120,000 new Bitcoin, and the MNAV is down from 3.3 to 2.6. No trading on Thursday, Thanksgiving here in the United States. Probable inclusion on QQQ. Here's a spreadsheet. And then he says, look, this is possible. Note that the entire net inflow of all the ETFs to date is 31 billion. And they were talking about 12 billion. So like you said, that's a third of that. And then someone talks about how Binance didn't know that. I thought it was spot. And does that have to be over the counter? And Fred's like, no. So, and then lastly, and this is something that you were talking about, Jerry. Michael Saylor just tweeted this out this morning that, hey, we need more green dots, essentially saying, yeah, we're going to buy. It's going to be fast. So it wasn't just this, but you told me something else about Saylor had put something into the tweets.
So yeah, so what I follow Michael Saylor because his MicroStrategy as a company is a major driver for Bitcoin, right? And so having them as a publicly traded company, we can rest assured that any actions that they take that are, geared towards large expenditures, this, that, and the other thing, they publicly announce these things, right? They're beholden as their fiduciary responsibility as corporate officers that when they make these kind of moves, that it's public information. And so by following his Twitter account, you get all kinds of great information. And so one of the things that I really got really bullish around was his tweet on November 17th about MicroStrategy acquiring 55,000 new Bitcoin at an average cost of 88,000. That was November 17th.
Doof.
7 days ago, my friend. 88,000. What are we at now? 97,000, 96,000, top range of 96. I mean, and it's going to most likely bounce up into the 100. Then 2 days later or 3 days later, within that range, don't quote me on the exact minute, he releases that they're going to do another convertible note offering to raise a bunch of billions. Now, what we know, right? This is a known fact. Every single time they raise money, the sole purpose of their raise is to acquire more of the underlying asset Bitcoin, which means they're going to go into the market and buy more Bitcoin. So what do? I immediately go to my Schwab account. Boom, 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 boom. How much extra money do I got? Okay, Microstrategy stock into my Roth IRA. Thank you for having me.
Oh, nice. Very nice. That's very good idea, Jerry. Yeah. Roth IRA.
Just get it in there. I'm not rich enough to max out every opportunity I got. Sure. But one of the things that I just also came across, and your audience might be really into this, maybe it's something we'll dive deeper into later, but these health plans, these accounts that you can get with your brokerage where you can stick away money into assets that can grow, right? They're meant to reimburse medical expenses, but they don't have to. You don't have to. You could just let it accrue tax-free in these medical. So obviously, I'm opening up what they call an HSA,
a health savings account.
Buying MicroStrategy stock because who doesn't want assets to accrue tax-free? Who doesn't want that?
So, okay, tell me, black that up, Jerry. That's interesting. First of all, that was great info on MicroStrategy.
No, thank you.
Back it up, though, about the HSA, the health savings account. So what you're able to do
accounts are these interesting vehicles that are completely legal in the United States. So every citizen of the United States can have a Fidelity account or a Schwab account or whatever your brokerage account is, and open up a health savings account. And its original purpose was to allow citizens to save money, right? To pay medical expenses.
Well, right. And that's right.
But there's all kinds of other unintended positive consequences for sheltering against taxation, because it's not put dollars in the account. It's put assets in the account. So if I buy MicroStrategies today at $429 and I stick it in there and that sucker goes up to $1,000 and splits and all these gyrations of what's going on with that stock in the marketplace, I'm accruing all that value tax-free, Rob. Now, there are terms in how I can recuperate that capital. And everybody needs to go do their own research on that by themselves. But to accrue value tax-free in the United States, every single one of us should try to be as aware of all the avenues as possible and take advantage of all of them to the limit of the law.
Yeah, I got to agree. And then, when I hear about these types of things and, avoiding the taxes, it always reminds me of the story of Peter Thiel, who was one of the PayPal founders. I mean, genius. The guy, he took his stocks of PayPal, which were worth pennies. He put it into his Roth IRA, and it was under $7,000 or whatever the terms were back then in the 90s. And it ballooned to $5 billion. And I think it's even more than that now. So now he gets to take it out tax-free because it just improved. That's why, I put Bitcoin in my Roth IRA because, who knows? If Saylor is right and it goes to 13 million, I'm okay. And I'm rapidly approaching.
Brilliant. Yeah. You've had a great relationship with iTRUST Capital for a long time. Matter of fact, I can remember when I was active in my YouTube channel, I reached out to them and created some kind of affiliate relationship with them and got started with them. Also, it was a direct result of what I saw you do. This had to be 4 years ago.
Shoes,
at least time. Maybe 5. Anyway,
and they're still around.
You had there's a commenter here. Rob and Jerry can really afford to lock up BTC for such a long period of time. What should happen if World War III broke out? There's always going to be black swans, bro, and we have to act as if the world is going to have some sense of normality for the future, or all this other stuff doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. This is why take profits, buy guns. That's
yeah
what it comes down to. Because like people say, no, I'll just, and I know we're getting off topic, but people say, I'll just stockpile food and gold and whatever else. I'm like, you're just a storage facility for the people that have guns if the world does come to an end. So just letting you guys know, it's important. If you're outside the United States, guns, weapons are integral to what you should have in every single house that you own. So just make sure, hopefully you can do that. And unfortunately, some countries can not. Anyhow, now let's just to get back on point here.
Yeah, let's get back on track. Sorry to derail you.
No. It's always good. It's always good when it's Sunday. Come on, it's Sunday. But speaking of Tether, I found this quite fascinating. Tether's going to partner with Cantor Fitzgerald for a multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin-backed US dollar loans, which I saw this. I'm like, well, that's cool. And if Archive didn't put this guy's face, I would not have really cared too much about it. But I had to take a look. I'm like, that guy looks familiar. Cantor Fitzgerald, American financial services firm, founded in 1945, specializes in equity, fixed income sales and trading, blah, blah, blah. The CEO is Howard Lutnick. That is Howard Lutnick. Who is Howard Lutnick? Howard Lutnick is a huge Bitcoin digital asset bull. And he was on Pomp and we talked about him, but that's not the important thing. The important thing is who is Lutnick going to be? Lutnick is going to be the Commerce Secretary, and he was picked by Trump. What does the Commerce Secretary do? The roles and qualifications are as such. Mission of the department itself is to create conditions for economic growth and opportunity. And the number one thing they do is drive U.S. innovation and global competitiveness. So I know we talked about the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. That's a pretty good guy to have in office to get global competitiveness and say, look, we want to beat everybody, so we want to have the strategic reserve. But not only that, but again, going back to this fact, is that they just partnered up with Tether. And I want to say it was like a 5% interest into the company itself. So like if you're thinking about this right now and you're thinking, man, can things get any better? I don't know if it actually can. You got the Secretary of Commerce that's coming in. Yeah. So what do you think, Jerry? What do we got?
Well, let me share this with you, Rob, and I'll start with a question. What was the largest wealth creation vehicle the world has ever seen?
Wars?
No.
All right.
The collateralization of real estate in an economy that's currency is driven by debt and the proliferation of more currency. So the debasement of currency and the ability to collateralize an asset like real estate created more wealth than anything else in the history of the planet. Now, okay, that's interesting. Real estate, hard asset. Okay, collateralizing it. Okay, great. Everybody in the world tries to do it. The American dream: buy a home, get a mortgage, your house appreciates, it becomes your savings account. 40, 50-year strategy. Everybody understands it. Take that same exact strategy, Rob, and insert Bitcoin instead of real estate.
Oh yeah.
What will that do for for wealth creation as debt can be collateralized by a real asset like Bitcoin? Now, what will be done with this new wealth vehicle, and who's going to be a part of it? We get a guy like that as a commerce secretary. Now, all of a sudden, banks, not Nexo, not Celsius, not BlockFi, but Bank of America lending you money against your Bitcoin.
That's crazy.
With favorable rates.
That's crazy.
Locked in rates, not sliding scale depending upon the price of the, this is going to get fun. It's going to get fun, and it's going to get fun really quickly. And so when you're thinking about taking profits, keep this in mind. The wealthy never got wealthy by selling things. They leverage what they own by collateralizing debts against their assets, which they intend to never pay back because their assets continue to appreciate at a rate higher than the rate that they borrow at.
Exactly. Which is what is the term you buy, borrow, die. That's essentially the term.
Exactly. That's exactly the 3-step process for many of us to get filthy rich because we're not going to sell what we own. It's just these things should, if we've picked right, there'll be things that continue to appreciate over the next 40 years, just like real estate did for our grandparents, our great grandparents, and even our parents, and even us to some extent.
You know, it's a good point, and it's something that I think about, but it was difficult because of my history and some people's history also here with Celsius and taking loans out.
Sure.
And of course I was always tentative, but there was something that Cantor said. I'm going to show this to you. This was the first, and we talked about this week actually, the first 30 seconds for the Palm podcast. And when Howard says here, just listen to this, because if we're talking about, because we get it wrong, I get it wrong sometimes about thinking about what Bitcoin actually is. Listen to this first 37 seconds. Hold on. Here we go.
We're going to continue to lose value in the dollar. This Bitcoin thing is the opposite. It continues to appreciate its purchasing power over time. Why are you so excited about this?
Okay, so I think about it differently, but we get to the same outcome.
Okay.
People use Bitcoin and they say it's like a currency. It's not. If everyone started talking about Bitcoin being a commodity, they would actually be talking about the freedom of Bitcoin, and they'd be talking to people, and everybody who's in power would now understand.
Right? Does that make sense or not? Just make it, just stop. I mean, we can say it's a store of value, a long-term store of value. We can say it's a hedge against inflation long-term, but we should be calling it a commodity. And if we think about it like a commodity, you can think about it like real estate. And if you think about it like real estate, like how I would think of a commodity and holding on to and borrowing against, then I could totally see it. And then before we get into some other piece, like what you said, Jerry, that collateralization or the tokenization of assets or collateralization, you know that for the entire global economy, this is in 2022, global real estate was 326 trillion. I guarantee it's knocking at 400 trillion by now, especially with the money printing going on. And this is just real estate. And if we back up and we take a look at, well, just debt is 300 trillion. All the stock markets together is over 100 trillion. And then of course, gold here is at $18 trillion. And each one of these little squares is $100 billion. So like when you said it's about to get fun real fast, yeah, I think it is.
It is. I am so excited, and I am so grateful to have found what I found when I found it. Started my path of financial literacy, found people like you that are developing your place in the world, and you've gotten your financial literacy, and you've got such a great audience, right? That tune in.
I do have a great audience
to learn. You do. You have a great audience. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people that subscribe to your channel, and it's not by accident. It's not because you had some really cute cat videos going on. There's some real exchange of alpha here in the form of information. And it's never like talking heads telling people what to do. It's like, hey, look, I discovered this. Check this out. Hey, I discovered this. I'm sharing best practices with you. You're sharing best practices with me.
Exactly. And I get smart people on the show like you, Jerry. And everybody loves you. And that's just how it comes down to. Hey, real quick, before, there's a great question. Jerry, please explain this. I borrow 100K against my one Bitcoin not working. How do I pay it back without selling it? Before we get to that question, which is a really great question, I just want to tell everybody, and just, I don't ask for favors too much, but I'm going to ask everybody for a favor. I don't have a paid Patreon. I don't have a paid website. It's actually 100% free. And everything I give you on this channel is free as well. However, I need help and I can't do everything myself. There is this organization here in Puerto Rico called Protechos. And what they do is they're a nonprofit. So if you contribute to them, it's tax deductible. But what they do is they fix roofs for the poor and underadvantaged people here. And if you think about a roof like this one right here, you think, well, that's good. They can repair this roof and they won't get wet. It's not that. It's the roofs themselves collapse on people and people die. I need help funding this project as much as possible. And I know right now you're all sitting on some profits. Are you not? If I helped you and it helped out, I don't want you to give me anything. want you to give these people something. Because that way that the people that can't afford things can really do good things, and they actually have a really, have just a better life. So when you go to this website, there's a link in the description. There's two. I gave you the website itself. And what you do is when you go there, which I like about this is because if you go to Doña, an endowment, which I gave you two links. One is to the website, so you can check it out. It's legitimate. And the second one is to endowment. Now, I've already given, but again, I need help. But what's great about this is that when you click on donate now, you can go to crypto or digital assets. And underneath there, I want you to use the central exchanges or your wallet. And you can donate essentially anything you want. So like, watch this. So it's got ETH, wrap Bitcoin, USDC, where the hell Solana?
Cardano.
That's a Cardano's there. You can click on Solana. You can click on Cardano. Let's just take Cardano because that's the hot one. And you can say, I'm gonna give 1,000 or whatever else. You're gonna click proceed. I understand that I'm giving away. And what they're gonna ask you for, they're gonna ask you for your email so they can email you a receipt, and then you can use
that in your tax.
Yeah. Exactly. And you got two options here. You can scan this on your phone, on your wallet, or you can just copy this and put it in your centralized exchange and skim it over for this. But again, it's pretty much anything you have. It's the easiest thing in the world, and it would really make a difference just to help me out.
I would be honored. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Rob. I'll pledge it right here in front of God and everybody. I'm going to pledge all of my Cardano yield from today to the December 31st to this project. Awesome. So every single coin, and every single coin that I earn in yield will go to that project from here to the end of the year.
You're the man. You're the man. So everybody else, I'm just, like I said, I don't usually ask for favors, but I'm asking for favors today. So Jerry, let's get to this question, which is a pretty good question, actually.
It's a great question. And it's interesting that I have some experience doing it the wrong way until I really learned how to do it the right way, right?
We all do it the wrong way.
I was the knucklehead who did the math and thought, well, I'll take these 5 Bitcoin and I'll borrow 100,000 against them and da. So here's how it officially should work, right? This is how you want it to work. You want to lock up your Bitcoin as collateral with terms, not unlike a mortgage, but you don't want your Bitcoin to constantly be marked to market. In other words, you don't want the true value of your Bitcoin constantly being the value of your Bitcoin, so that your debt to income ratio can crush you if the market should happen to take a quick dive. So you don't want to go to Nexo. You don't want to do this. What you want to do is you want to wait till you can borrow less than 10% of the value. So for instance, if you had $100,000 in Bitcoin, you would take a $10,000 loan. Okay. And that $10,000 loan, if you were smart and you were still earning money, you would acquire more assets with that $10,000. Now, when the loan comes due, right? Let's say it's a 3-year term or something like that. When the loan comes due, the game is that your assets have accrued and appreciated at a higher rate than the interest in the repayment of the loan. So, for instance, in 3 years, that $100,000 of Bitcoin should be worth about $250,000, right?
Sure.
You owe 10 grand on it. Now you take a $30,000 loan. You pay your $10,000 loan plus your interest, and then you got another fat stack of cash to deploy for more asset acquisition. If it's a wealth building strategy. If it's not a wealth building strategy and it's a pay your bills strategy, then wait till your assets, where borrowing 10% of your assets can pay all your bills for a year.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, so great answer.
Let me finish one last thing. So when you do this, if this is how you acquire your capital to fund your life, remember, you never pay $1 of tax on a loan, and you never pay $1 of tax on the repayment of a loan.
Oh, right. Because it's a loan itself. So
it's a loan. It's not earnings.
Yeah. That's one of those loopholes. And then people will say, like, well, how does Well, how does Jeff Bezos do it? Because, he's taking all these loans out, and how does he pay the loans back?
He borrows against his Amazon stock.
Yeah, borrows against the Amazon stock.
He doesn't sell the stock. He just borrows against it.
And then people say, well, what happens when it comes due? He borrows some more.
He borrows some more. What is Amazon appreciating per year? 16, 18% a year?
Something like that.
If he borrows 10%, he's positive capital or positive appreciation every single year. You just, what did you say? Buy, borrow, die.
And then
so he's going to die. And when he dies, the bill will come due and his heirs will get everything that he sheltered, but not what he collateralized.
And I guarantee you he does not have a will. I guarantee you he has a trust.
No, absolutely. There's no question about it.
Yeah. And if you guys are like, what the hell is the difference between that and that? There's a guy I'd like you to check out. His name is Mark Kohler. He's a lawyer and a CPA. He's quite an interesting guy. He doesn't have much traction on on X. I don't know why, but he's got a lot of good information just on YouTube. And just a lot of things he says make sense. And he's been doing this for decades. And just check him out. Mark, M-A-R-K, Kohler, K-O-H-L-E-R. Really good guy, really good information. And then also, if you're starting businesses, the difference between LLC, S Corp, C Corps. So yeah, big stuff. I like those.
Isn't it an incredible world we live in that this really hard to get, almost impossible to find info unless you paid consultants to tell you about these things. Over the last 20 years, they are literally at our fingertips now. You just pulled up an expert who's got, I don't know, 130 hours of content that is accessible to every one of us for free.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh my goodness. So my advice to everybody is watch one less Netflix show each week and add one really positive informational video to your repertoire, whether it be, one of the tax guys telling you about estate planning, or whether it be about some, What is Money podcast that gives you insights into monetary policy and how things might go in the future. Educate yourself. It's all right there for free. That's all Rob and I have ever done. We're not geniuses.
Well, I think everybody knows that. Watches my show. So anyhow, on top of that, on top of that last question that we had about explain for the borrow against the 100K. There's one more thing I'd like to point out, which is this. It's because you have Bitcoin. Just know this: that I think Bitcoin's gonna keep going up, and we could see. Well, first of all, in 2025, my price prediction is 10 to 500,000. But if you're talking about like another 10 years, another 20 years, it's feasible with quantitative easing and the different state of the union that we're in, that we see 1 million, 2 million, 5 million Bitcoin. But then, of course, what does $100,000 buy at that point? Does it buy you a really crappy car, or does it even just get you through the drive-through at McDonald's? I don't know. But at some point, you want to say, hey, I'm living in this life. I want to do something with these funds. And I'm not going to tell you what to do, but on one of my rules, what do I always say? I always say you got to take profits along the way, right? It's just reasonable. Whether that be altcoins or meme coins or S coins or whatever it is, maybe a little Bitcoin here and there. I want to just give light to Curry. He says, hey, I bought Bitcoin at 15K, went to 99K. It's almost an $84,000 increase. I sold some. Good enough for me. Bought a Tesla, wife a BMW, paid off my wife's student loans, debt-free, baby, no debt. 35K left over after tax set aside. I won. You won. Congratulations. And I bet you anything, Curry's got another stash of other bags that he's going to unfurl as time goes on. What do you think, Jerry?
Absolutely.
I mean, shoot. He can't beat that.
And, one of the things that I remember you used to speak to all the time, you used to talk about diversification.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm realizing is that although my assets themselves, like the list of assets I really am convicted on, is not diversified. I mean, it's basically Microstrategy in the stock market,
very
Bitcoin
smart.
in crypto, and a couple of layer ones that produce yield. If they stay here for 30 years, those will be winners, right?
Winners.
But diversification in how I allocate them, what do I do with them? I am getting very diversified. So obviously Roth IRA, health savings account in the stock market, iTRUST capital in crypto, obviously my yield plays that I'm doing with these staking protocols that are just, you buy the token, you lock it up in a stake pool, like Rob's Cardano pool, and just earn the yield, and either compound the yield or use the yield as a passive income stream. There is some diversification in there, and I'm only talked about 2 different assets.
Dude, yeah, that's what it is. Diversification. And who had it on their bingo card that Charles Hoskinson would be educating congressmen and women and talking to heads of states and just really just being that guy, that linchpin for digital assets and bringing in the old world order into the new world order. It's amazing. And then look, of course, what Cardano does, especially with that Bitcoin OS and being essentially like a second layer or side chain or whatever they want to call it these days for Bitcoin. That's awesome. And now congratulations to the Cardano holders, XRP, Stellar holders, Hedera Hashgraph, all the ones from like long time ago that just didn't seem to really want to budge. It happened again, right? I like it. So Jerry, speaking of which, now that we're getting into the good stuff, Hypercycle.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think because me and Jerry have a thesis, and the thesis is because of NVIDIA and because of the hype around AI will do quite well. And fortunately, unfortunately, there is a lot of resources that are still needed, and Hypercycle is going to be filling up one of those. And I know you work with them. So what do we got? What's the update? Because people keep asking me, when's Jerry come on and talk about Hypercycle?
Here's the kind of the skinny, right? So May 8th, 2023, Hypercycle was born. We did a token generation event. These ERC20 tokens produced a fundraising that allowed us to establish our company, give us some roadway. We've done that. Our CEO came out and said, okay, listen, from 18 months from token generation event, we are going to have a network where independent multiple AI agents can interact with other AI agents for the exchange of computational resources and include the economy of it. So my agent can talk to your agent. I can have your agent translate my data from English to Spanish. You'll send it back to me. I pay you. Boom. All in one beautiful transaction. Okay, great. We are actually doing it in our closed alpha. So all of the speculation in all of the white paper, this is possible, blah, 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 is actually happening. And so that's really a good news. But what I will tell you, I think, is the bigger story, and you and I are part of this, and you got to see some of this firsthand, and you actually have some of this in your possession, is the thesis that computation will be the oil that drives the next industrial revolution that'll be digital. And I believe that beautiful recipe of electricity running through hardware, powering software, which I call compute, is the thing to be in, right? That's the vertical to be in. And AI is going to drive a lot of that, right? And so one of our companies, Hyper Appliance, produces a machine. You can see it right here behind me. That's my box in my office. It's running an AI node. And that Hypercycle node has the ability to eventually, through reputation and splitting, become 1,024 separate nodes performing 1,024 separate AI computational tasks. But it doesn't end there, right? We're taking the same premise, Hyper Appliance, this company, and we're applying it to all wannabe decentralized distributed networks like Cardano and Ethereum and Solana and all these other, and building home computation devices so that members of the communities that they belong in can actually participate in those economies, right? So I'm going to ask you a question, Rob. You have this incredible stake pool. When you write a check every month for the computation, does it go to Jerry, a Cardano enthusiast who's providing the computation, or does it go to AWS or some corporate compute provider?
It goes to some corporate compute provider. That's the problem.
Exactly. So let me ask you this. Do you think for 1 second that corporate compute provider is going to reinvest in your ecosystem or spend $1 on supporting your charity?
Maybe not, probably not, but my DMs are open. So if Bezos wants to contact me, no problem.
But Jerry, the Cardano enthusiast who's got a Cardano home portal project in his home, providing you computation, the money you send me to provide that computation has a much greater potential of coming back into your ecosystem by buying more ADA, staking it with you, supporting programs that you're supporting, keeping that value capture in our ecosystem. So Hyper Appliance, so Hypercycle, the software company, the network, Hyper Appliance building the boxes, is now breaking out into the greater world of compute. Things are getting exciting around Jerry's house, and I'm really glad that you asked me to come on the show, because these things are culminating with our alpha at Hypercycle, the creation of machines outside of the Hypercycle ecosystem for regular compute, like your proof of stake protocol or a midnight side chain, or even Hydra, providing compute for Hydra, people that want to play Doom at instantaneous speeds
on blockchain. Exactly.
And keeping the transactions in our community, increasing the transactions, increasing the use of the network. It's a virtuous cycle.
It is a virtuous cycle. It'll be even more virtuous is if I can set up my node, my Hypercycle node, which I'm looking at right now.
You're going to pretty soon. I'm going to drag you into the beta. So when we finish the alpha, I will drag you into the beta. I'll pay for all the cost of the setup.
Great.
And get you rolling so that you can see it occurring and happening in real time.
Sure. And what I'll do is I'll record it so everybody knows how to do it if they want to get into this. And somebody asks, how can we buy Hypercycle? Because you guys aren't listed in very many places.
We see, here's the funny thing. You know how in crypto, when you look at the price of a token, that is what you assign the value of the project?
Yeah.
Here's the thing with Hypercycle, the ERC20 token that's available on Uniswap or MEXC exchange is nothing more than a placeholder for the network version of the token. And the token in the network doesn't have anything to do with the price of the token on these exchanges. It has everything to do with being a container to hold your Cardano or your Bitcoin or your USDC or your US dollar or your Thai baht. So it's this real misconception that the value of our token, 19 cents, is the value of our project. You couldn't be any further from the truth, but it takes a lot of explaining and a lot of education to go from token price having the value to the node actually being what's valuable, the node.
Well, that's what all comes down to. Everybody who's bought early into projects and stuck with it, I'm sure everybody can appreciate that, because I know that some or most of your products that you have invested into who are watching this video, it took a while to take off, right? Or maybe it took off like one point and then it kind of crashed down because everybody's just speculating, but you understood it and you felt like it's going to be big, so you stuck with it. It's the same thing, I think, here, what Jerry's saying here with Hypercycle. So Jerry, well, here's the question then. If we're going from alpha to beta, how long are we talking about then till when we can launch?
I can tell you, so we have not put out an official press release around this, but I will tell you and your audience, our intention is to have a fully fleshed out beta ready to document to open to the world quarter 2, 2025.
2020. Everything happens in 2025. This is perfect. Okay. I mean,
we're right on track from our when we had our token generation event in May. I came on the very beginning of August. So I wasn't with the company when it started, but I came on relatively early. And it's been build. And now we actually have a closed alpha where not only USDC is going from one agent to the next to pay for computation, but the exchange of that computational supply and demand side is happening. And so the proofs, right, when you've got to provide all these proofs. These proofs are coming to fruition. So all of the things that we had as theory are proving themselves to work in this closed alpha. It'll further be proofed in our beta, right? And the beta is the last step before we open to the world and say, hey, set up your node, add this agent, apply it to this algorithm, and watch the money come in.
Cool. I've got time. So I'm good again. All right. Hey, let's so good stuff. So let's get into some questions. Aristotle or Plato. Says, Jerry, do you have a top 5 educational streams that you hinted at earlier? If I'm missing my Netflix shows, I welcome your guidance. Who do you have that you follow?
Can I say the first one?
Yeah.
And I think this was so instrumental for me. It may not be for you, but it was for me. When I discovered Mike Maloney, who is a Puerto Rican resident, when I discovered Mike Maloney's The Hidden Secrets of Money, it's a 10-part YouTube series. That was what led me to the rabbit hole. Yeah. That 10-part series, The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney.
Was it this one?
Right there, The Hidden Secrets of Money.
6.2 million views. I believe
there's 10 of them. I believe there's 10 of them.
Okay.
It is the thing that, like I said, it's the thing that sucked me into the rabbit hole to learn and understand monetary policy, right? So that's number one. I'd say everybody start there. Rob, what sucked you in and got you thinking about learning and understanding this thing we call money?
Price go up? No. So it was to understand. Actually, I had to understand about inflation, and I had to kind of wrap my head around it. So I think the first one was The Creature from Jekyll Island. Yeah, pretty great book. And then the second one was, and I got that with the Federal Reserve, but then when I started to hear about Milton Friedman and what he talked about and where he says inflation came from, and actually there was another interview that he did in 1998. It was Elon Musk, and he was sitting. It was not with Elon Musk. It was Elon Musk tweeted it out, and he talked about the different government agencies that should be shut down and the ones that should keep going. And it was like 90%. He's like, we need to shut that down. We need to shut that down. So it was those two things. I mean, that part, but then just understanding that inflation, and he says it very clearly. He's like, inflation doesn't come from some unknown source in another country. Inflation doesn't come from greedy corporations. Inflation doesn't come from these other businesses practices or fractional reserve lending. He goes, inflation comes from one place and one place only, and it's Washington, D.C. And he goes, and everything else is just a lie. And he pretty much said it just exactly like that. I was like, I like that guy. I know. So yeah, those things.
See, the phenomenon that dollars, I'm going to use that U.S. dollars come into fruition. They come into existence through the creation of debt. Yeah. Now, for many, many, many decades, loans were made, dollars were created, but here's the thing, loans got paid off. Back in the old days, 60, 70 years ago, debts would get repaid, the money supply would then retract because our money supply was a direct result of loans. Loans being issued, created money, loans got repaid, money supply went away. When you start taking a loan and then borrow again to repay that old loan, you never decrease the money supply. It just keeps increasing. And that's the phenomenon we find ourselves in now.
And that's
for the last 35 years.
Yes. And that's why I never understood. Not never understood. It made crystal clear sense when I got into Bitcoin, not just real estate, but when I got into Bitcoin, just how powerful assets are. Because I never understood really where inflation came from. And now that I know where it comes from, I only see things in either it's an asset or it's not an asset.
Yeah.
If it is a fiat, is it a bond or something like that? I'm like, it's not going to get me where I want to go. I have to have assets and I have to hold on to them because they will generate yield as time goes on. Because everything's going to go up. So like I just like when I talk to my brothers. First of all, they're morons. And they're like, why are you into Bitcoin? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe because I don't want to put it into like your crappy S&P 500s that has done pretty well. I'll get it to you. But I go, I just don't want to get into that.
Has the S&P really done well? Really?
If you overlay,
I would argue that all it's done is match inflation.
Yeah. You know, my favorite one is Ben showed me this and in the Cryptoverse. He overlays the M2 money supply with the S&P 500, just goes, whoop. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Mirrored it almost exactly. So one last publication that I think is really great for all of us, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous.
Yeah.
Really good book. As an economist, he lays out the
The case,
the case for understanding it. And I think if you just did that, Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money, started following other people that are on that journey, little nuancy things will pop up. Read a couple books. God, the Monster from Jekyll Island is incredible, and the Bitcoin Standard.
Dude, and then look at this one. There's levels of Bitcoin maximalism. And if you think Michael Saylor is a Bitcoin maxi, he is like level on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is like, I'm just an S coiner, I love meme coins, and 10 is like the ultimate maxi. I'd say Saylor is about a 7 or an 8. Saifedean, there is where both of them sit down and talk about it. And he pretty much, I mean, they're friendly. It's not like they're thrashing each other, but he's just like, no, Michael, you're wrong. He's like, if you put anything into money, it's going to go to 0. He goes, no, that's not how it works. And Michael's like, or Sarah's like, look, I'm just trying to gain some yield. And he's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's going to 0. You got to get everything. Like everything has to be in Bitcoin. That's
a little extreme. But yeah. I will tell you, there are going to be a lot of assets that inflate in the next 18 months that the inflation or appreciation of the asset does not reflect its true value.
True.
I know that for firsthand. I was sucked up into the Gulf Stream of 20 to 21, got myself into all kinds of Cosmos projects and things of that nature that had, incredible initial takeoffs, but were also the very first ones to lose value. They still are nowhere near where they were. I bought tokens that were $40 a piece that are sitting at 20 cents right now with no hope of coming back. So be careful in the enthusiasm of the market. Be careful to be able to distinguish value from appreciation. Those are two totally different things.
Yeah, well said. Hey, there's Parish Parza says, everything is so rosy and everything is so good. Is there anything out there that worries you? What do you got for what's on your bearish bingo card that could bring
politically that Russia doesn't capitulate and quit its aggression, and Ukraine doesn't stop either. That we need warlike aggression to minimize.
True. Very true. I mean, not without
nothing will screw up a party like a really horrible fight.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're the military-industrial complex, you're like, well, this is bad for us because we're not going to make our billions anymore. We want to.
Yeah, but I didn't invest in Boeing. Do you own Boeing?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, neither do
all
I.
That stuff, like I know there's money to be made, but you know what it is. It's just going through that same old cycle. Like, I'm not a big propagator of war. I just don't. I mean, there's very, very rare times we really need that. And now with this Ukraine-Russia situation, and I'm not a geopolitician. I'm not going to even delve into that area. Just like Peter Zeihan should never have delved into the area of Bitcoin with that ridiculous comment of, it's at 16,000, it's going to go down to 17,000, which made no sense. So like, I just know that war, not good. Peace, probably a hell of a lot better. But it's not like they're doing a great job. We'll see what happens in January. These next 2 months will tell everything.
I got a question for you. I can't type it in the chat, but I can ask it to you.
Sure.
Just yesterday on your Twitter, on your X, sorry.
Nah.
You put this, I think it was an MSNBC clip around this man with a full head of hair talking about loans that were set up like a mortgage that had a minimum 4-year tie-up or lockup of Bitcoin. What company is that guy from? Where can I get more information on that specific program? Because I couldn't find it in your clip, and I couldn't find it when I did a quick Google. Who is that guy, and who does he work for?
Got the name of it. Let's see.
Yeah, you went and got it from the Bitcoin Therapist. Exactly.
Yeah, I bet if we go here, this is New Market Capital CEO.
Thank you. New Market Capital CEO Andrew. Hang on a second.
Andrew Huns.
Andrew Huns. I am going to dive into that. That's a very interesting financial vehicle that I want to learn more about.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where like you essentially can underpin loans with other collateralized assets, which Voyager, if you're listening, that's how you do things. You don't make uncollateralized loans, just saying. So like with this one, you could have parts of it into cash, you could have parts of it into some other asset, you could have parts into Bitcoin. And you can say, well, I want to do this type of loan. Okay, well, we'll hold it here. And the minimum lockup is it was interesting because when we talk about it, it goes, the minimum lockup is 4 years. I'm like, that's brilliant. Because if we all know the 4-year cycles, but if you just take a look at 4 years, everybody's in profit from that time frame. So I'm like, that's a great, those people really understand it. So I could get that for sure. Yeah, it was an interesting concept for sure. I mean, look, we had that story. We had this story, where did it come? Of Lutnick or Cantor Fitzgerald. Again,
right?
They're partnering up with Tether for backed US. That's crazy. Bitcoin backed US dollar loans. And they are, as traditional as 1945 investment banking services, prime brokerage, and commercial real estate financing. That's the golden grail, the golden goose. I'll take it. Too many good things going on, Jerry. Too many good things.
Lots of great things. Be careful though. It's easy to get intoxicated with price go up.
Mm-hmm.
Again, trying to distill what is truly valuable and what isn't. I would ask people to consider what has survived the last two ups and downs, things like Cardano, things like Ethereum, XRP, believe it or not, is still, it's still a viable product. I don't like it. I don't see its quote unquote huge potential as a coin. I see it as a business, but not as a coin, So just be careful, everybody. Yeah. Be careful. The things that are working for you in the bear market will most likely continue to work for you with 10x potential in the bull market. Don't get too fancy.
Exactly. And I'm going to show you guys one last thing, because you're going to, well, let's be honest, like at some point you probably want to sell some of your altcoins. You want to sell some of your digital assets. That's fine. But as time goes forward, you're going to start to hear about these the doomsayers, which are fine. But I want to just have you do one quick thing. There was this, I was going to share this on yesterday, but I got a little too busy. This was from the Wall Street Journal. And it was touting as the greatest bubble nearing its peak, says Black Swan manager. This is Mark Spitznagel. And if we come over here, this is from November 21st. The greatest bubble in human history is close to bursting, Mark Spitznagel says. And he says that he's a bearish investor, predicts stocks may soon lose over half the value, says a recession could happen by the end of the year, fueled by government's $34 trillion debt. His fund, Universe Investments, has made billions. But he did accurately predict 2008 and 2000. Like almost perfectly. And you don't feel like a fool for making bearish arguments. So right there, you're like, oh, well, this is something that I should really look into, because, this is it. There's a trick, there's a hack that this is Guy from Coin Bureau taught me. There's a website called perplexity.ai. And it is an AI, it's an AI.
It's like ChatGPT.
Yeah, it uses ChatGPT. It's a wrapper, essentially like that. But what it does, instead of like having like ChatGPT and it gives you references to the questions that you have and just answers your question. And I said, hey, Mark Spitznagel, I think that's how you say his name. He's predicting a pretty bearish market. How accurate is he? And it says here's the ones that came true. Here's the ones that did not come true. So like when you take a look at this, you can say, oh, well, not everybody's 100%. Or if you have a theory about someone that's blowing smoke up your skirt, you're like, hey, maybe let's take a look at who he actually is. And this makes things really easy. So it's Perplexity, PERPLEXITY. I wish they would have named it better, but hey, whatever.
Do we have a second to dive into that just a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. So I don't know Mark. I don't know Mark's work.
Yeah.
But this is what I do know, right? It's public information that the reason the term Magnificent Seven was even created was they took these 7 companies that created 90% of all the profits in the S&P 500. 7 companies.
Yeah.
That means 493 other companies are not making profits.
Yeah, or not not making profits, or not that much of profits. Like it's like 3% or something like that, right?
It's literally nothing. So my question is, in an inflationary environment, if you're not gaining, you're losing.
That's true.
How do 493 companies survive the next 10 years unless they get thrown subsidies, unless they are given rates to borrow where they can borrow more than they owe, so that the overage of what they borrowed can go to just maintaining? It's that game of dog paddling, right? Working harder and having to stay still. I think we're going to see a financial reckoning where a lot of companies just can't keep up with the Joneses. They just don't have it. And you're going to see a lot of companies adopt shit like the Bitcoin standard, like Michael Saylor did with Microstrategy, because they have no other choice. It's that or die.
Yeah, that's true.
It'll be interesting. Where'd you go, Rob?
Hey, I'm right here. How's it going?
I missed you. I felt separation anxiety for a moment.
All right. I think we're doing pretty good. Well, Jerry, I mean, I think we said a lot. We've gone for an hour, man. I want to keep you because it's
okay. Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been great stuff. I always like our little chats, especially on the Sundays. It's low key. There's no real big news going on. People get to interact with us. It's great. I love it. So thanks for coming on again. Hey, are you going to start posting anything on YouTube? Or are you too busy making your billions?
As a matter of fact, I'm going to do a couple of interviews. I've met some really interesting people over the last year. I've got one scheduled for Monday, so I'll actually be releasing an interview with Michael Casey, who's this really incredible man from the Ethereum world of Consensus, CoinDesk. He was the managing editor. He's kind of somebody that knows everybody in crypto, kind of guy, real bright guy. And he has created a society for decentralized AI. And so I am going to get him on the show, and we're going to discuss his new endeavor, this new Dias society around decentralized AI, and see how I may be able to help. He's an interesting guy. I really think it'll be a fun interview to catch.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. These are the big interviews that only Jerry can do. All right, everybody. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, all that great stuff. When Jerry drops that video, we'll talk about it on the show. I'll get a link to that, but that is it for today. So everybody go enjoy a little football, relax, touch grass, all that good stuff. You did it. Congratulations. You did what you're supposed to do. So enjoy it. All right.
Pura vida.
Adios, everybody.